Non sequitur, a conclusion or statement that does not logically follow from the previous argument or statement. Welcome to my weekly podcast, Later That Same Life. I'm Larry Fedoruk, and each week, topics, discussions, stories from our lives.
Season 9, Chapter 9, Non Sequiturs, Part 6.
Every so often on this podcast, I do an episode called Non Sequiturs. This is the 6th Non Sequitur episode, where instead of covering one topic as I usually do, I take several topics, thoughts, that each on their own might not make a full podcast, and I toss them together into this topic salad. Let's go. Last week on the podcast episode called Free Range Kids, where I also talked about helicopter parents, I made a joke about Harry Chapin being responsible for the always hovering, overbearing moms and dads. It was a tongue-in-cheek remark about his song Cats in the Cradle, how we all heard the lyrics back in the day. Father doesn't spend enough time with his son. Then, when the son is an adult, he has no time for his dad. And we all said, that's not going to happen to me. And we overcompensated and became helicopter parents. Tongue-in-cheek, yes, but I was also making a point about how we can be influenced by pop culture. I bring it up because that song, Cats in the Cradle, got stuck in my head for several days. Until I realized there's a huge mistake in that song. A continuity error. Story doesn't make sense. Okay, let me explain. You remember the story, the lyrics, right? Son came into the world in a usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away. He turns 10. Can you teach me to catch? I said, not today. So on and so forth. Yet the son says, I'm going to be like you, Dad. Chorus, guitar break, yada yada. Kid grows up, moves away, gets married, has a family. Dad calls, grown son says, new job's a hassle and the kids are the flu. Sure nice talking to you, Dad. And then the old man says, when I hung up the phone, it occurred to me he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. Well, we don't know that. See what I mean? There's the problem. If the kid grew up just like Dad, then he would ignore his own kids, which obviously he doesn't, because he expresses great concern that his own kids have the flu. I don't have time for you, Dad, because I got to attend to my own kids. He can't talk because his kids need him. The old man, Dad, never had time for him. He didn't grow up like you. He's just paying you back. What I'm saying is the story in Harry Chapin's lesson, flawed. To me, glaringly incorrect. I'm just saying if we're going to take tutelage from lyrics or any aspect of modern culture, we should make sure it stands up, that it makes sense. Coincidentally, I actually have a problem with another Harry Chapin song, Taxi. A wonderful song, well-crafted, emotive, and may I say, at about 7 minutes long, it was a tune we radio disc jockeys really appreciated. All of those long songs, Taxi, American Pie, Stairway to Heaven, Like a Rolling Stone, MacArthur Park, Hey Jude, well, there's a lot of them. Extra long pop songs. It gave your friendly neighborhood, overworked, underpaid radio DJ a nice break. While Taxi was on, you could use the bathroom, refill your coffee, go for a smoke, still be back for the last verse. Taxi. Yeah, it's around those last verses, that's where I have the problem. So the story in the song, Harry and Sue knew each other back in the day. Little sex apparently, little magic between them, but they go their own separate ways. He to become a pilot, she was going to be an actress. Now he's driving cab. She ends up marrying a rich guy. She's got lots of money, beautiful home, but she's miserable. Fate and a rainy night reunites them. They talk, they reminisce. And Harry clearly says, there wasn't much more for us to talk about. Whatever we had once was gone. Then, of course, the famous verse, she said we must get together, but I knew it'd never be arranged. When she gave me $20 for a $2.50 fare, said, Harry, keep the change. Ooh. So Harry then sings, now follow me here, well, another man might have been angry and another man might have been hurt, but another man never would have let her go. I stashed the bill in my shirt. Anyone see the issue here? Oh, okay. Why would another man never have let her go? You just said whatever we had once was gone. You'd never get together. It would never be arranged. Clearly it's over. It's already gone. What is left to let go here? Nothing. Never mind that, every love song ever written by a man talks about a woman as a possession instead of a partner. Brutal. You see my point? I feel kind of bad because, Harry Chapin, rest in peace. But it appears many of your songs don't actually make sense. Remember almost 30 years ago with Alanis Morissette, she released her song Ironic? Again, a great song. But after that, a bunch of people pointed out that her lyrical situations, traffic jam when you're already late, meeting the man of your dreams, and then his beautiful wife, well, while those situations are indeed unfortunate and in some cases coincidental, they are not ironic. Not as how any of us would define irony. People often rip on movies that have continuity issues or parts of a story that just don't add up. It's funny that way because movies are like a relationship. If you really love them, you're willing to look past those errors. They don't matter. But if you don't like them, those mistakes just serve to drive you even more crazy. By the way, if you have any more songs that somehow don't make sense to you anymore, or maybe never did, send them along. I'd be curious. My Gmail is coming up at the end of the episode. Non sequiturs. Hey, here's a question. Why does our Canadian federal government run ads for our national parks when it seems like at least half of them are on fire right now? Millions of hectares, burning out of control. Smoke billowing and drifting, smothering Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Washington, New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, on and on. These cities on certain days have the worst air quality in the world. Man, when you can beat Mumbai and Beijing on that index, you've really accomplished something. Had all these aerial shots of choking clouds that opened every newscast of every day. And yet the feds think those national park ads are going to make someone say, hey, I know, let's go camping in the woods. Speaking of which, have you seen those ads for Viking cruises to Antarctica? Luxury liners to the seventh continent? Because I guess destroying it from afar just isn't good enough for humankind. We need to get up close and personal, get some selfies with an iceberg, throw some French fries at a penguin, and still be back in time for the buffet and the floor show. Sending huge polluting ships packed with pestilent people, all for profit, doesn't seem like the best idea for the Antarctic right now. Hey Viking, park it at the dock. The main excuse we humans used for adventures is man's inherent need to explore. Well, there's a huge difference between exploration and extreme tourism. I think the families of the people on board the Titan submersible learned that the hard way, I'm sure. CNN is currently running a weekly Sunday night series called See It Loud, the history of black television. It'll be interesting to see how they handle Bill Cosby. I hope they don't ignore the subject. Cosby paved the way. He was a trailblazer, a national treasure. They should probably mention that. And then also talk about how a culture might feel when they find out their hero is evil. There is a phrase that has become very popular over the last few years. You have to see it to be it. In general, it refers to media, and representation in media of various social strata. You know, way back, a young girl sees Barbara Walters anchoring a newscast and thinks, oh wow, I could be a news anchor. An odder example is Whoopi Goldberg, who has a great story on first seeing Nichelle Nichols as Uhura on Star Trek. And it said to Whoopi that people of color actually made it into the future. Previously, all depictions of the future would have said that black people just didn't make it. Must have been wiped out. See it to be it. Here's my question, and, you know, I'm an older white male. I've seen it to be it my entire life. But if you're part of a minority and you finally see someone who looks like you in the media, does that tell you that you can be it, or that you should be it? I mean, I've always thought that media, yes, has to be more inclusive, and it mostly is now, but media also likes to dictate how you should be, how to look, where to be, what to think, who to know. I think we should understand that. See it to be it, yes, but see it all so that you can decide what to be. Recently, I became aware of this other concept, the cost of poverty, previously known as ghetto tax. The cost of poverty says the poor pay more. I think it's a good time to bring this up now, especially with ridiculous food inflation. This cost of poverty is hitting more and more of us, and large grocery chains, I believe, are scamming us with this idea. The cost of poverty, the poor pay more. What do I mean? Well, here's a simple example. A can of soup is $1. The grocery store offer 3 for $2. Well, that's a better deal per can of soup. Those with money will think nothing of spending the extra buck and pay less per unit, less per can of soup. Poor person would like to take advantage of the offer, but they only budgeted $1 for soup. They can't buy the large bottle of laundry soap, even though in the long run it's more economical, because they only have enough money for the small bottle. Poverty tax. The poor pay more. The twofer, or 3 for, or buy 5 and save. It's the rich that save on those offers, the poor pay more. When I take my walk to the store in the mini mall near me, I have to cross at a light. I have to cross my little side street, then across a major thoroughfare. The major street, as you might imagine, has the green for a long time. So as a pedestrian waiting to cross, you are waiting a long time for the green. It would be great if I got that walk sign right as I approached the light, wouldn't it? It would save a lot of time. Here's the thing, I do that walk different days, different times, between 150 and 200 times a year. And I've lived around here for many years. Not once have I got that walk light as I approached. Shouldn't the odds be more like at least 50-50? They aren't. I just stand there and I wait, each time, wondering how it is that I didn't leave 2 minutes sooner or 3 minutes later, and I might get that walk light. But I don't, ever. And on the way home from the store, same thing. I wait. I'm starting to take it personally. Recently, I read a couple of stories, seen a couple of videos predicting 10 nations that may not survive another 20 years. Experts agree. Some may seem obvious, North Korea, Iraq, Libya, but others may seem more surprising if you don't really follow world politics. Under threat of extinction as a nation, Spain, Belgium, and the United Kingdom. These countries all contain just enough disagreeing factions to break them apart, and many of them also have huge economic challenges. Remember this little factoid? Just after World War II, there were like 100 countries in the world. Today there are about 195. The two most surprising entries on the list of nations that may not last another 20 years are the United States and China. China? Really? Well, their economy came at the cost of their environment. A UN report estimates that 250,000 people per year in China die prematurely due to diseases caused by pollution. It's estimated that China will use up all of its drinkable water in the next 2 decades. As you know, we have a very complicated system of ships and pipelines to bring us fuel, but not water. Plus, China has approximately 1.5 billion people. They have strict Communist Party rule. But man, that's a lot of people to keep pinned down forever. And you know, the average Chinese citizen knows more about national and international politics than we give them credit for. The dissolution of the United States in the next 2 decades, that seems much more plausible, doesn't it? The ingredients that led to their civil war still bubble under their surface. As recently as 10 years ago, all 50 states submitted petitions with thousands of signatures each asking to secede from the Union. That's not saying it's a majority of Americans. It's a lot of people. And when one goes, Texas, deemed most likely to be the first, the domino effect would be spectacular. Florida, California, Alaska, Hawaii. Not so United States. Top 10 nations that may not make it the next 20 years. Canada is not on that list. Although we may lose Alberta, they're grumbling about it. They may go. Well, you know, one can dream. Speaking of lists, here's another list. The top 20 social media sites in the world each have 100 million or more people on them. The top 6 each have more than 1 billion. Facebook is still at the top with almost 3 billion. They also own one of the other top sites, Instagram. The parent company, Meta, has just introduced Threads, a rival to Twitter. And in the first day, almost 50 million people signed up. Man, how many more social sites do we need? The answer is somewhere between 0 and 100. Why do we need more social sites? Well, I don't know. Why do we need 200 brands of breakfast cereal, 500 different car models, 31 flavors of ice cream? We don't. We don't need. We want. Yevgeny Prigozhin. At the recording and posting of this podcast, we assume is still alive. The leader of the Russian mercenary group Wagner staged what looked to be a failed coup against Vladimir Putin. Prigozhin, a vile individual, ruthless killer, little or no moral base. Yet somehow a lot of us were cheering for him. And this Wagner group, What a concept. Take people from prison and give them a chance to rehab by serving their country in a mercenary army. Wonder where he got that idea. Remember the movie The Dirty Dozen?
Грязная дюжина.
Wagner is like The Dirty Dozen times 20,000. Recently, Russian authorities raided one of Prigozhin's homes in St. Petersburg. That city is where he first met Putin over 20 years ago, when Putin was St. Petersburg's mayor. In his evil lair, they found guns, gold bars, various passports under different names, wigs, which we assume were for disguise, and hey, if it was something else, I'm not judging you, at least not on that. We found a lot of cash and a large jar of gummy bears. Okay, not that last one. Not exactly, Mar-a-Lago there, but still an interesting raid.
It's a collusion witch hunt.
A lot of people are wondering, how is this guy not dead already? I don't know. I'll bet he's not accepting any unsolicited offers of a cup of tea. This theory came up, though, and I kind of buy into it. He's more valuable to Putin right now alive. Dead, he's quickly a fading memory, perhaps even a martyr to some. Alive, leaves him and everyone else wondering, what's next? That's really a source of power to Putin, isn't it? No one knows what's next. I know that dreams are only interesting to the dreamer, so I'll try and make this quick. I had a dream that I was doing a duet on stage with Don Henley, each of us on a stool with an acoustic guitar. The plan was the spotlight would be on me first. I would sing 2 verses of my hit song, then he would sing 2 verses of his hit song. Then we'd finish with the 2 songs together as a medley. And that was genius because up till then no one had realized how well those 2 songs would go together. Note that in real life I don't have a hit song, I don't play the guitar, and I don't know Don Henley. So I start, the crowd goes wild. Then spotlight up on Don Henley, he starts. And by the way, in the dream he's doing Hotel California. And the people applaud, but much less than they did for me. Noticeably less. Don does a verse, then forgets the second verse. I'm watching, I think I should fill in, but I can't remember it either. She's lit up a candle, no, there she stood in the doorway, I don't know. There's like this seeming eternity of silence. Then a stagehand runs out and whispers the lyric into Don's ear. Henley freaks out. I know the words he yells. I was pausing for effect. And now you've ruined that. So the stagehand runs off and Don storms out after him. So I'm just sitting there on stage alone. So I finish my song to a tremendous ovation. Well, then I wake up and I remember the dream and I think, wow, that was a great song. It was a great original song. Try and remember it. Remember that song. Your dream wrote you a song. And recently I'd seen interviews with Billy Joel and Paul Simon and even Paul McCartney, how those guys just, sometimes they dream their music and they wake up with a $1 million song in their head. Well, at that moment, that was me. I had a $1 million song. What's the song? What's the song? I don't really play any instrument, but I could hum it into a recording device, or I could write down the lyrics, and I could be a songwriting millionaire. Oh man, it was gone. Can't remember. I just remember it was a great song and everyone loved it, and that it was my original song, I think. Maybe it was Cats in the Cradle.
Later That Same Life is written, voiced, and produced by Larry Fedoruk. LarryFedoruk37@gmail.com. Subscribe to Larry's podcast YouTube channel. Get automatic notifications with each new episode.